It was a moment that none of the leaders in the room would ever forget. The air was thick with tension, the weight of a continent's future hanging in the balance. The ECOWAS summit was underway, but today, it wasn't just about discussing peace or the welfare of West Africa. No, today was different. Today, the man who stood in front of them, the man they had all mocked, was about to show them something that would change the way they saw him and the entire continent. Ibrahim Traoré stood in his military uniform, his eyes unwavering as he met the sneers and dismissive glances from the ECOWAS leaders. His posture was erect, proud, and despite the sharpness of their ridicule, there was no crack in his demeanor. He knew what they thought of him, the young, goon-polished leader from Burkina Faso. To them, his military attire was nothing more than a joke. It was too simple, too raw for the grandeur of international diplomacy. They saw him as a man unfit to sit among them, a soldier who lacked the refined sophistication they thought their positions required, as they laughed behind their masks of diplomacy. Traoré remained unfazed. I'd faced far worse in his short life, and this was just another challenge. But what none of them could have predicted was what would happen next. The world was about to witness something that would not only humble them, but open their eyes to the true meaning of leadership, sacrifice, and the strength of a single man. Scene 1. Introduction and setup. Burkina Faso was a country in turmoil, plagued by violence, insurgency, and political instability. The once thriving heart of the Sahel was now a land torn between hope and despair. Ibrahim Traoré, the young leader, had risen from the ashes of war, determined to restore peace and sovereignty to his people. But his rise had not been easy. He remembered the days of struggle, the years of unrest, and the crushing weight of leadership on his shoulders. He was no stranger to hardship. His family had been displaced by the very insurgencies he now fought against. His people had been silenced by years of neglect from foreign powers and neighboring states. But it was in these hardships that Traoré found his resolve, despite being mocked for his military uniform, his tattered appearance, and his less than diplomatic approach. Traoré stood as a symbol of resilience. His uniform wasn't a sign of incompetence or immaturity. It was a representation of everything his people had endured, everything they were still fighting for. And so, as the ECOWAS leaders exchanged their subtle insults, Ibrahim Traoré silently steeled himself. He knew that his time had come. The day of reckoning was upon him, and soon they would understand that his presence, his uniform, was more than just a symbol of war. It was a symbol of victory, of redemption. Scene 2. Conflict or challenge introduced. The moment came when ECOWAS leaders, in a private discussion, made it clear that they saw Traoré as little more than a puppet of circumstance thrust into power. By the chaos that had taken over his country, you cannot expect us to take him seriously, can you? One leader remarked, his voice dripping with condescension. Another joined in. He can barely stand in front of us, let alone represent the future of this continent. And yet there was something about the young leader's demeanor that did not sit right with them. It was the way he stood, unwavering, even as their laughter rippled across the room. For all their wealth, their power, their influence, they could not shake the feeling that something deeper, something more profound, was hidden behind his quiet defiance. The breakthrough came when Traoré, who had remained silent through their mockery, finally spoke up. His voice was calm, but it carried a weight that reverberated through the room. "I don't need your approval," he said. "I stand here not because you invited me, but because my people need me. They need someone who understands their pain, their struggle, their dreams. If you can't see that, then perhaps you are the ones who don't belong here." His words struck like a thunderclap. The room fell silent. Scene 3. Midpoint revelation or twist, just as the leaders were about to respond with their usual dismissals. Something unexpected happened. Ibrahim Traoré reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, worn document. He placed it on the table, the frayed edges of the paper barely visible. "This," he said, "is a letter from the people of Burkina Faso. It was given to me before I came here. It's a list of their demands, their hopes, and their fears. It's not a diplomatic document. It's not something I can hand over to you like a token of negotiation. This is the voice of a nation, a nation that has been ignored for too long. One of the leaders leaned forward, intrigued but still skeptical. "What are you trying to say, young man? Not here to play politics with you." You mocked. "My uniform. But it represents something you don't understand. It represents the lives of my people, their struggles, their determination to live. And now, with this letter, I am calling on all of you to listen to them. Listen to the people of Africa, not just the governments, not just the leaders, the people." As he spoke, the room grew quieter, the weight of his words sinking in. For the first time, the ECOWAS leaders saw him not as a young, inexperienced leader, but as the embodiment of something much larger movement of the forgotten, the oppressed, and the resilient. Scene for climax emotional breakthrough, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then a single voice broke through. It was a voice Traoré didn't expect, a voice of understanding, of respect. It was the leader of Ghana who had watched the young man's rise from afar and had never quite believed in him. "Not until now, Ibrahim," the leader said, his voice low but filled with conviction. "You are right. We have failed to listen to the people. We've become so absorbed in our own positions, our own power, that we've forgotten who we serve." The room, which had been filled with mockery just moments before, now buzzed with murmurs of realization. Leaders who had once mocked him now saw him not as a military leader in a uniform, but as a man who had risen from the depths of suffering to demand the respect of those who held the power of the continent's future in their hands. Resolution. In quiet closure, as the meeting came to a close. A transformation had taken place not just in the room, but in the hearts of those who had once dismissed him. Ibrahim Traoré had come to the summit as a soldier, but he left as a symbol of hope, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of Africa. The leaders who had once mocked him now understood that his uniform was not a symbol of weakness. It was a symbol of defiance, of a people who would no longer remain silenced. They had learned that the true measure of a leader was not the uniform he wore, but the strength of his convictions, the depth of his courage, and the love for his people. And so, as Traoré left the summit, he knew the journey ahead was still long. But for the first time, the world had seen him for who he truly was, not a puppet of circumstance, but a leader of unshakable integrity. The future of Africa was uncertain, but it was now in hands that would not falter. Call to action if this story touched your heart. Consider subscribing for more inspiring tales of hope, healing, and unexpected kindness. Hit the like button and share this with someone who needs it today.